harder than ever to be present. With a perpetual distraction in our pocket, we glide through life paying less and less attention to what's going on around us. We look for this distraction at the first hint of boredom. Whether social media or silly games, these devices steal every free moment of our daily life. And too often, what is supposed to be productive times are sacrificed to these mind-numbing activities. By getting caught up in this virtual vortex, we miss out on so much we don't even realize. I am just as guilty as anyone of spending way too many hours lost in my own little digital jail cell. But when I do take a step back from my phone and put away my electronic devices, I am constantly in awe of the things and people around me. Simply looking up and paying attention to my surroundings changes my perspective and my attitude, my overall disposition. Living in the present is something Melinda Livingston learned at a very early age. With parents who opened their hearts and their home to transients and strangers finding their way, Melinda found out most people just want to be heard, to be listened to be present with. As a teenager, Melinda learned what many adults still struggle to understand. You don't have to feed someone a meal or help them with a task like moving. Often serving can be just showing up, just being there to listen. This skill has also served Melinda well in her professional career. Diagnosed with dyslexia later in life, Melinda had unknowingly adapted this sense of presence to also help her business partners, specifically entrepreneurs, those struggling to visualize their dream. Melinda helps developers clarify their vision and bring their ideas to market. Using her perceived disability to her advantage, Melinda is able to present concepts in a way that everyone can understand. This unique skill led her to head of growth strategy at Colonial First State and head of product development for Bridges. It also led her to start her own consulting firm, Income Connections, in 2017. Hear how she's providing meals for the hungry and providing products for the hungry entrepreneur in my recent conversation with Melinda Livingston. This is the Extraordinary Podcast, and my guest today is Melinda Livingston.
Hey, so great to be here, Nate. Thank you so much for having me.
How are you?
Oh, fantastic. It's beautiful in sunny Sydney.
I was going to say now, so people are going to be able to tell right off the bat, you're not in the southeastern United States. Where are you?
I am in sunny northern suburbs of Sydney, Australia.
Yeah, you guys are jumping into spring, you were saying.
Oh, yeah. The trees are green, the flowers are blooming, and yeah, we're just enjoying the best time of the year, heading into spring and summer. So best time.
Yeah, so we're falling into fall, and that's my favorite time. So those are actually both of my favorite times of year when things are really starting to change. So that's exciting. That's good stuff. So tell everybody on this side of the world what you do and a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, Nate, I've got a business called Income Connection, and I am all about helping people come up with an idea for a business. So really, and in this season, so many people are, feeling a little bit wobbly in their careers and in their life, and they're really open to building something of their own, interested in starting a business. And so I am all about helping them get started, helping them come up with an idea that is a really good fit for them. And helping them get started. I mean, we are so much more than our resume. We have so much potential. There's so many things that we can do. And in this season with COVID, there are so many opportunities. People are buying stuff that they've never bought before.
And living a lifestyle they've never lived before.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So there's just, so much possibility to start a business, do things differently, think outside the box. And I'm here to, help people get started on that journey.
Well, what I like so much about what you do and what differentiates you from a lot of the traditional personal development coaches or self-help gurus or whatnot is you actually go through the nuts and bolts and the mechanicals of someone figuring out what their path is, what their product is actually going to be. And there's a reason why you're especially good at that.
Yeah. So look, what I do is I talk to people about everything in their life. I talk to them about what they enjoy doing. I talk to them about what they enjoyed doing when they were younger, what they did in their career. Talk to them about, what problems they have insight into, what are the problems that frustrate you? And if it frustrates you, then it probably frustrates a lot of people. And if you've got insight into that, well, then maybe you could develop a product or solution and market that. That's a really great way to start a business. Maybe maybe you were good at something in your job and you solved lots of problems for customers or for your employers, and maybe that could be your business idea. You could do that on the side. There's so many things that you could do, and it's just a matter of just really thinking and exploring and just opening yourself up to all of those possibilities.
Yeah, that's something that really resonates with me. It's like, number one, get really good at something first and foremost. And then once you're really good at that thing, at your job, whatever your job happens to be, then opportunities will present themselves. You'll see where there's niches to be filled. I've got a good friend, his brother worked for John Deere for a number of years. And there was always this one part that was always holding up their assembly production line or whatever it was when they were assembling these tractors. And over the last 10 years, they always struggled with this one piece of the puzzle that held up a lot of their production issues. And so he ultimately left John Deere and created a side business making that part, and then thereby streamlining their production facility, helping them out. And it had become a multimillionaire within just a few short years by simply being good at what he was doing and then paying attention, seeing where that need was, and then filling it.
That is such a great example. You think of all of the problems that just go unsolved in businesses, all of the customer complaints that come in, and businesses just can't solve all those complaints, or they aren't able to turn their minds to it because they're successful, and they probably think, well, we're just successful doing what we're doing. And in a business, you're probably thinking, well, I can see an opportunity in those complaints, so I can do something about that. And then there's also customers that a lot of businesses turn away, and so you're thinking, hey, well, look, I could serve that smaller customer that our business is turning away. Why don't I set up my business and serve that customer? Or I could do a better job serving a particular type of customer. So there's a lot of customer groups that we call underserved markets. So groups of customers who the big players just don't have the right product for. So an example that I'm thinking of was a need that was met by an entrepreneur called Tristan Walker. So he came up with a product called the Bevel Razor, and I think he actually is based in Atlanta. So have you heard of him?
I'm not familiar. No, I need to be, apparently. This sounds fascinating.
Yeah, so he actually is just this amazing entrepreneur. So he is an African-American man, and he found that traditional razors just did not work on his skin. So it would cause kind of razor burn. Mm-hmm. And so he came up with this special type of razor, which was kind of more like the traditional kind of I don't shave, so I don't know, but like in a razor in the traditional barber shop with a
straight blade. Yeah, like a straight blade.
That was more like that type of blade.
Interesting.
So he developed a razor that was more like that, which kind of really worked for his skin. And so he developed this razor, and he pitched it to these kind of venture capital people, and they would say to him, well, your niche is too small. We're not going to fund you. The market's not big enough. But he persisted, and he launched his product, and it was just this incredible success because his niche wasn't too small at all. There's a lot of African-American men around the world.
Well, and not only that, but that's a very common problem for a lot of guys, not even just African-American men, but all types can, that's especially as you get older and your skin gets rougher. I mean, it's a legitimate issue for a lot of folks.
Yeah. So
that's brilliant.
So he has sold his business to Procter and Gamble. He's expanded to a whole range of skincare and personal care products. He's a major entrepreneur. So yeah, such an inspiration. So yeah, his name is Tristan Walker. So
I'll have to check him
just
out.
one example of underserved markets, where we're a large business like say Procter and Gamble or other personal care product providers said, well, that niche is too small for us to have a specialist product. And so Tristan Walker said, well, I am going to serve that niche. So many people you say, well, I can't get the product that I want to meet my needs, and they just kind of bumble along unhappy. But if you're listening today and you're thinking, well, maybe I could develop a product to meet my needs, you'll find that there are other people in your situation. And just go out there and give it a go. I mean, what have you got to lose? And there's a lot of people who have met incredible success by just giving it a go.
Well, that's funny because that's kind of your story too. So, I mean, you actually have was it 20 years in product development, and now you're taking that knowledge and that skill and now unleashing it to the rest of the world, right?
Yeah, well, that's a lovely segue, Nate. Yeah, so I had a 20-year career in corporate in finance, and what I did in those roles is I would develop products and marketing strategies, and very much focused on innovation. So coming up with ideas, I would work with teams, and we would do brainstorms and sit together and say, well, what is the product for. What is a product idea to solve this problem? And I really loved that career. It was really, really good. But I always kind of thought, well, what if I did something for myself, and also, as we were talking earlier, corporations can't launch every idea that their staff come up with. They have to be focused. And so there was a lot of frustration in that my team and I would come up with lots of great ideas, and almost all of them would just sit on the shelf. And so there was a little bit of frustration there. So, so in 2016, that job came to an end, and I did have the opportunity to start my own business. And Income Connection is the business that I have today. And very much my vision is around helping people find vision and purpose in life. Because, in this season, finding freedom is just so important, and purpose is just really, really important. And for me, it's just such a privilege to help people reflect on, their own skills and their abilities and their passions, and just really apply those passions to bring personal freedom and purpose into their lives.
And what a perfect time to be doing that. I mean,
absolutely.
I mean, if there was ever a time to be getting really good at doing that, now is it, right? Because there's so many people that are finding themselves more than ever in this spot of, okay, now what? I've got to do something different. I've got to come up with a new plan, and you've got now years under your belt of helping people do that. So it's like it's funny. There's several people that have coming up on this season of the podcast that have created businesses. And even me with this podcast, just happening to have started this, about a year and a half ago, or almost 2 years ago, just putting all these little pieces in place, having no idea about what the world was going to look like today, but then having just following this path that we feel that we're on, and we're this vision that we're trying to fulfill. And it just so happens that, wow, now put the circumstances in place, and here we are at the right place at the right time. And all that legwork that we put in on the front side, not having any idea of what was coming. It's like it's all paying off. And I think it's really cool to see people getting rewarded for that.
Yeah, that's great. If I could give an example of a client who was really surprised by this season and how it's kind of working out for good. So, a client who was a long-term, university lecturer, 20 years plus. And the university sector has really suffered badly in this season, and her teaching load was cut down quite considerably. And she was just really saddened by that loss, and just didn't really know how she was going to kind of earn an income moving forward and get work. And so I met with her a couple of months ago, and so she was just this incredibly amazing university lecturer, but she was also a mum and of children who had been through university and established successful careers. And one of the challenges for young people when they go to university is they go from school, where they're very kind of nurtured, and then they go to university, and it can actually be very disorienting because they're on their own. They've got to find their own way, and they can find that they get very lost. They don't thrive. They can fail their courses, and then there's the mental health concerns around that as well. They feel very lonely and isolated. And so we kind of talked about all of the opportunities in her life and all of her unique skills and abilities, and we reflected on how her children actually, because of her unique insight, had thrived at university because she knew
how to prepare them, right?
Yes, and she had prepared them. She prepared them in school, so she knew that you don't just wait till they get to university and try to help them. She had to prepare them in school. So then, we thought, well, her unique business idea was to show other parents how to prepare their children in those years before going. So that's her business idea.
Brilliant.
To do that preparation, because a lot of parents invest heavily in their children's education in order to get them to university, but they're really just focused on that short-term sort of schooling preparation, not the long-term university experience. And so we talked about an education program, webinars, targeting the schools, targeting the parents. And because of her university, because of her university background, she would just have that instant credibility, and the testimonials as well of all of her past students. So this just amazing product idea. And she was just so excited by all of that possibility because she knew she had it all. She could nail it. So in this season, it's taking that step back and thinking about, well, what's in my hand? What have I got? Everyone has that unique insight and possibility, which is the amalgamation, not just of what's on our resume, but everything in our life. It's our parenting skills. It's our skills as a friend. It's our skills in the community. It's everything that we have. And so it's that ability to think big picture. And that's what's really very special.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I was actually coaching a guy that hopes to start doing a podcast, and he had a podcast he wanted to do. And when he started, he had a name kind of picked out, and he was kind of getting ready. And as he did some research, he saw there was like 2 or 3 other podcasts that were very much in that same vein, and that really discouraged him at first. But the more he came to me with that discouragement, I said, well, look, you're still going to bring your own set of perspectives to that. Like this guy's like, from the North, and he's kind of got his like Yankee kind of appeal, and this guy's kind of doing this thing. It's like, but you're this other guy that's going to appeal to this whole other set of demographics and this whole other set of crowd that would be totally turned off by this guy that you think you're exactly the right. So it's like, even though you may think you're exactly the same, everybody's got that own set of unique, and I call it their toolbox. We've all got that set of tools that we've collected over the years that shaped our personality and who we are. And if we apply the tools in that toolbox to whatever our craft is going to be, it doesn't ultimately matter what if somebody else has the same thing. It's automatically by default going to be different.
Absolutely. I think it's important to have an abundance mindset rather than a scarcity mindset. So if you think there's enough work for everybody, and that you've got something unique to contribute, that's the right perspective to have. There's no shortage of opportunity. And what's the risk in giving it a go?
Right. And well, that's what I told him. And especially like with podcasts, that barrier to entry is so low.
Yeah.
And then there's plenty of podcasts out there. I mean, there's what they say, like when there's over 1 million now, but I mean, about only half of those are active. But I mean, with that many, you're bound to come across somebody who's doing something similar to what you're doing. So if you're going to let that discourage you, then you'll never be cleared to launch, kind of thing. So tell me about, there's some other aspects of your life that have impacted your path and getting you down this way. And one of those things is dyslexia. And that has,
Yeah.
you've actually turned that obstacle into an advantage. And I want to talk some about that.
Yeah. So I've been dyslexic my whole life, but but I only found out when, oh gosh, when I was in my 30s. Um, so it's not, it's sort of the dyslexia where the words vibrate on the page, rather than they kind of swirl. So I can, yeah. So I can read, but it is it causes me headaches and strain. Um, so so the way it kind of caused difficulty for me was that I would get a lot of migraines, and um, through my schooling, I would get kind of headaches, and then in my working career, because I had a corporate career with the fluorescent lights and the computer screens, which were quite bright. And I would spend most of the weekend in bed with a migraine, and it was it was quite challenging for me. And so what I did is I used to go to a lot of doctors trying to work out what the problem was, doctors for all sorts of things, lots of specialists. And I ended up Googling glare headaches, because I found that light was probably the most irritating factor. And I went and saw a dyslexic specialist, because that was what the internet kind of returned to me as what the problem was. And I remember sitting in the surgery thinking, I don't have dyslexia, surely. But it ended up being that's what I had. And so yeah, I've got the glasses, and it's been really very helpful for me. But I find that I've got kind of workarounds that do help me, in terms of avoiding fluorescent light and other things like that. But one of the things that I've kind of found by reading about other dyslexic people is that dyslexic people are often quite creative and think about the big picture, because we do find it hard to read. And also little things like counting. I've always found it really quite hard to count things, because I need to put my finger on things as I count them, because they tend to move. And so, all of these little adjustments that we make. And I've taken inspiration that there's other entrepreneurs who are also dyslexic, like Richard Branson, who is just this, amazing inspiration for me, because he's just such a great innovator. And then also the founder of
talk about a big picture guy. I mean, that's
he's
like
just
the definition
amazing.
of, right?
Yeah. And look, his dyslexia is a lot more severe than mine. I think he had trouble finishing school. So but
there's some great stories about that.
Yeah, and he's just such an inspiration, and that he just, despite his dyslexia, just kind of, just did not let it hold him back. And then the founder of IKEA, Ingvar Kamprad, he founded, when he founded IKEA, he gave his product names, rather than naming them, giving them SKU codes, because he found it hard to follow the codes, which is kind of like what I do. I find that hard. He named the products after towns in Sweden. So so I thought that was,
he made it
really,
easy
really
for
cool.
him and
Yeah.
impossible for the rest of us. Especially us Americans. We don't stand a chance at pronouncing half of those things right. Those things that can be brutal. But no, it makes perfect sense though. Yeah.
And also pictures. So if you buy a piece of IKEA furniture, you've got a picture to put it together, rather than descriptions. Yeah. So for me also, I draw. I tend to draw I prefer to draw rather than to write. And I think that's also another thing. But drawing is good for creativity too. So there's all of these things that I do, and in some ways I call it my superpower because it is a difference to other people, and but for me it's a strength, and I think also it gives me an empathy for other people who are a little bit different. We all have something that is a little bit different about us, and appreciating difference is a good thing. If we can appreciate what's different about each other, and respect what's different and be understanding about that, I think that is good for, empathy and building bridges between people.
Absolutely. Well, and that difference can a lot of times, like you said, I mean, it can be used to your advantage. It gives you a perspective that other people can't necessarily see or catch. So, I mean, I think it can be very much of an advantage. So, I'm curious. So you didn't get diagnosed with this until much later in life. So I think that as a child, you probably developed a lot of these workarounds because of just not having any other choice, huh? Did that impact you a
Yeah.
lot growing up?
So, your world is your world. So you
Yeah, you
just
don't
don't
know any
know.
different, right?
Yeah. I mean, I had headaches. I would just manage the headaches. I think I would do things like try to keep the light down, which is the glare.
That was even
Um,
as a young child as well?
yeah.
Really?
So I
No
would
kidding.
just, but I mean, I remember when I was I told a friend of mine when I was diagnosed, a friend that I knew at university, and she said, I remember at university you used to use a ruler to follow the lines down the page, like I used to, and she thought, so she thought that there was things that I would do differently, but she thought it was a speed reading technique. She thought I was onto some.
She thought you had some kind of secret special skill you were using
Oh,
to
I
your advantage,
know,
right?
I know, and that was just me trying to not lose my place because the
Yeah.
words were wobbling around.
Well, I'm not a fast reader by any means. I tried to learn some of those speed reading techniques, and I haven't really had much success with it. So, but I certainly haven't had to have the struggles that you've experienced for sure. So, tell me about growing up. There's some other aspects that played an impact in your life as a child that have now manifested them as an adult. Can you speak a little
Yeah.
bit about that?
So when I was growing up, I grew up in a very ordinary suburb,
Was
in the
that it's a
northern
suburb?
suburbs of Sydney. So, yeah, just a very ordinary suburb. Um, you know, uh, just very plain, very ordinary. But what my parents would do is they had a charity where they would help homeless people. So they would work in that charity. They established it with some friends, and then some of the homeless people that wanted to get out of their situation, they would bring home to our suburban home. So I was one of four.
One of four
And
kids?
yeah, one of four kids. And so we had some extra space in our home. And so we would kind of have some of these homeless people, some people who, some of them were older than me, some so transsexual, bisexual people, people coming off drugs, and then also some young people who were kind of in and out of jail. And so it was a very good childhood for me in terms of appreciating diversity, people having real struggles in their lives. And I really appreciated it. It wasn't my whole childhood. It was when it was more in my teens. So I was able to kind of put it into perspective. And yeah, I did appreciate it because the neighborhood that I grew up in was very conservative and very kind of suburban.
Right.
So it gave me that sort of perspective that not everybody lives like that, right? Other
That's where that
people,
empathy gene came from for certain, right?
yeah, not everybody has the opportunities that I have and that very nice kind of, loving parental kind of family that I had. A lot of people really struggle. So I had some really interesting experiences. So one kind of lady reoffended for a minor offence, and I had the opportunity to go and visit her in jail. which, a minimum security jail, which I had, would normally, I've never had the experience again. So that was really good. And and I think it's good to sort of see what the struggles other people have.
Yeah, what a perspective. And now that's now manifested itself. Normally we talk about charities at the end, but in your case, I think it's worth go ahead and bringing up. That's you are still play an active role in that kind of arena, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, because many people do have challenges throughout their life that they're not responsible for. In my local community, I do cook and serve meals. So I'm on a roster. So last Friday when we last talked, I was kind of like later that day, I was going to cook 15 meals and serve them at our local community.
Yeah, you had a big day ahead of you.
Fusion house. Yeah, so that was really good. So I really love doing that. I do it with some like-minded people from our church. And it's just, for me, it's just such a privilege to have that opportunity. We make tea and coffee, and we have a chat and talk to people about their day. And it's just, for us, it's just this really great opportunity to make a connection, to place value on people's lives, to let them know that they're loved and they're precious and loved by God. They're part of our community, and we really respect and value them. And over the time that we've been doing it, we get to know their names and about their lives and their families, and
they become part of the fold. They become part of the family, right? I mean,
and just we have real friendships, and and I think in this season, the people who we're seeing a different group of people gather as well. So more a broader range of people in COVID have been impacted and are needing more help. So it's good to be able to broaden the range of people that we're able to help.
Yeah, you hate to see the increase in need, but it's interesting to see it affecting all demographic, all walks of life. Everyone has been affected by this. Our local, again, I'm actually kind of beyond the suburbs where I live, and one of our local churches has been doing a Saturday morning food drive thing where you can come by and get a box of food, and to watch that line get longer and longer week after week after week it was really tough. But hopefully you're starting to see that change now, at least around here anyway. So, well, I just wanted to talk about a little bit more about some of the issues that that are challenging with dyslexia. So one of the things is being able to read, and that's a big thing on my show. The things that I talk about is like, with the books that you're reading and the things that have inspired you. And a lot of people, there's certain books that have made this big impact. So I'm very curious for you, being that reading is difficult, how do you consume content? How do you maintain that learning mindset when books can be a challenge?
So I still, I listen to podcasts. I still read, because I've got the dyslexia glasses that mean that I can
the glasses
read
help
with
a lot,
great
right?
more comfort. I read. I'm in a book club as well, which helps me to kind of maintain discipline.
Stay focused, right?
Reading.
Right.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, so then, in that case, then what are some of the books that you do like? What are some of the ones that have made a big impact on you?
Oh, for me, in terms of me wanting to help people to develop, one of the books that I love reading and I encourage other people to read and I recommend to others is a book called Strengths Finder by Tim Roth.
Say that one more time.
Strengths Finder. So what it does is it's got a questionnaire tool, and it's got, I think, like 22 signature strengths. And it's a great book. When I was a leader of teams in my corporate job, I would every team that I led, I would do a Strengths Finder exercise with them. I'd give everyone the book, and we would do a workshop together. So it's the belief that if you exercise your strengths in your work, you perform at your best. So a lot of leaders focus on correcting weakness, but you can only go so far in correcting a weakness. If you focus on developing your strengths and using your strengths, you're going to perform really, really well, and you're going to shine because you're using your strengths. That's what you're here to do. You know, you're designed to use your strengths and shine and do your best work, and you're going to be engaged. You're going to love what you do. So if you can find your strengths and identify your strengths, you're going to and develop your strengths, do work that uses your strengths, you're going to be at your best. You're going to live your best life. So Strengths Finder is one of the books that I give away the most, one of the books that I encourage people to read.
So what were some of those strengths for you? I'm just, other than obviously the big picture thinker is going to be right there on the top of the list,
Yeah,
but
so
what were some of the others? I'm curious.
Yeah, strategic, innovation, we're like a maximizer, trying to make things better. Competitive is in there as well, so that's quite interesting. I suppose that's that commercial edge.
Yeah, of course, right? Yeah.
Ideation, which is coming up with ideas. Yeah.
So, and let's talk about, you've also got some pretty good habits and routines that you try to incorporate into your life.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some of those. I'm particularly interested in the morning routines.
Yeah. So I get up same time every day between 6:30 and 7, come downstairs, have breakfast, and I check the news. I pray.
Oh, no, you don't check the news first thing, do you?
Oh, look, I am a bit of a news junkie. Current affairs.
I've got a rule that I don't allow myself to look at anything like that or social media or anything for at least the first hour.
Oh.
And the last hour of the day as well. Like I got to shut it all out.
That's actually really good discipline, the last hour. Yeah.
Yeah. Because like going to bed with that stuff, that's what I found myself doing. And that's just, it was just not good. So yeah, I shut that down big time. It's amazing the difference it's had on my mental
sleep. Yeah.
Well, no, not even sleep so much,
mental
but just
health,
my mental outlook kind of thing. Like I just found myself a little bit more miserable when I have that first thing or last thing in the day. But
it's very important to guard your mind and guard your heart. Absolutely.
For sure.
Have that distance.
So get up, get your coffee, get your news in, and what else you do?
I pray. I've got on my phone list of prayer points.
And something that goes along with that too, right?
Short Bible reading, which is kind of on my phone that gets fed to me each day.
Beautiful. Oh, well then, yeah, you don't even need to bother reading my 3 habits in 30 minutes. You're already checking all the boxes. We were talking about that before we started recording.
Yeah, sounds good though. And then I'm upstairs and at my desk by 8. I've got my vision board, kind of like a piece of paper, which has got my vision. I read that out loud. It's like an affirmation.
There it is.
Focusing. And then I've got a list of things, which is I drink a glass of water, make sure I drink a glass of water because that's kind of refreshes me, make sure that my cells have got lots of water in them. I check my socials. So there's a couple of, people who kind of, who I refer business to, they refer business to me. I check their socials. I kind of like some of their stuff. And then I'm into my LinkedIn. And anyway, just kind of like there's a series of things that I do. Lunchtime, I make sure I take lunch and I try to exercise at lunch and I listen to some inspirational music.
Nice.
And so that's pretty much my day. So I kind of make sure I've got the morning routine and then I get some exercise at lunch.
So I also want to talk about coming to the US because usually when I talk to people in Australia, there's such a gap and we have nothing really like in common, so to speak. But in this case, you've actually been to Georgia and up and down the East Coast some, and you've got to travel some in the US, huh? Yeah,
I've been to the US 4 times. We've had so much fun there. We love the US. We love the national parks and we love the scenery and the cities and the people. It's been fun. So we've done a lot of the East Coast, some of the West Coast. We've done and you got to check out some of Utah, some of that southern Utah,
the
the Southwest. I think do you call Utah Southwest?
Oh, well, yeah. I
Or
mean, Utah is just one of the states out there, but yeah,
yeah,
that whole Southwest area of the
Grand
country.
Canyon,
Yeah. Utah has a
or
lot of those pretty
Arizona.
spots. Yeah.
Yeah, we've done a lot of skiing. Vermont, we skied in Vermont and Utah. Where else have we skied in the United States? I mean, we skied in Canada, but that doesn't count. Yeah, it's just such a great place. So yeah, so you're in Atlanta. So we've done a driving holiday through Georgia, which was fantastic. Beautiful place.
What's one of your other favorite places to travel? Because I know that's a big part of your lifestyle, right?
Oh, look, Japan. Like Japan's a fantastic country. We've had a holiday there, and I'd love to go back. It's yeah, great place in terms of food and culture, and just we have so much to learn from Japan. 70% of their country is forest, and they're very protective of their environment. So
I had
all
no
of
idea about that. 70% of the whole country is forest, not like national forest kind of thing.
yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
Um, and all of their appliances, you can't throw out an appliance when it's broken. It has to be recycled. So all their metal gets recycled. And all on the side of the road, like the verge on the side of the road, it's all the land's just not wasted. So there's solar panels, there's vegetable patches, um, there's no waste within their society. Everything is recycled. Every land is used for something good, and everything is pristine and clean.
That's one of the things I had heard. As a matter of fact, it's funny. We've had a little social media thing going on Facebook talking about Japan and the cleanliness. Now, were you in Tokyo or did you go? Where else did you go? But I'm assuming you probably flew into Tokyo or something like
Yeah,
that. Where else did you
we
get to
flew
experience?
into Tokyo and we did Honshu, which is the main island. So
Oh,
we
nice.
traveled around the main island, and we even drove, which is not very common. Yeah, and you can only get a car if you've got a garage to store it in. So not very many people have cars, but you don't need a car in Japan. So there's 23 million people who live in Tokyo, but you're only 10
Whoa.
minutes away from a train station. So you don't need
Hmm.
a car in Tokyo. But the streets are not crowded to walk through. Like Tokyo is one of the most livable cities in the world. A small country with over 70 million people, and everybody be so comfortable in it.
Well, and really, and essentially an island. I mean, they don't have a lot of natural resources there either. They've got to be incredibly efficient with what they have to work with.
Yeah, I mean, for me, they're just so inspiring because they have zero population growth. It's one of their struggles, and yet they have economic growth. So how do you get economic growth with zero population growth? I think they've actually got declining population.
Uh,
So they're quite an economic miracle, really. So, I mean, because I'm interested in economics, and so just to kind of see how their economy does work was
Yeah,
quite
there's a
fascinating.
lot of Japanese companies I really admire, and like Toyota being one. I'm a huge fan of. Asics is another big one that I'm big fans of the way, and just the way that they run their organizations is really top notch. There's a great book on like the Toyota way that's really good.
And
Um,
respect for older people. So they have their older people work for a long time, which is a good thing. So um, that respect for older people is good, so that there's not a sense that when you get to a certain age, you're not valuable anymore, which is also a good part of their society too.
hmm, that is really
Mm,
cool.
yeah,
So, do you have a bucket list destination you'd like to go?
I do. I would love to see the Northern Lights. I've
Ah,
actually,
nice.
yeah,
You
I've
didn't catch that in Canada when you were up there skiing?
no. You have to
No.
go via Winnipeg,
Oh, okay.
and so we were on either coasts. I've also wanted to do some Nordic skating. So that's where you skate. I skate on a frozen lake. I have looked at where you can do that.
You could
Um,
probably knock both of those out together if you play your
I
cards right, right?
could, yeah. So it would be somewhere in Canada.
That's
Um,
amazing.
yeah. So I do ice skating, which not many Australians do.
I was going to say,
I used
that's
to
not a
do
real
I used to
Australian
do
sport,
figure
right?
skating as a child. So I'm quite
Nice.
proficient, but I would
Brilliant.
probably need to get a little bit more practice, and I'd just love to do that, which would just be amazing. Like a multi-day, you can do like a multi-day skate where you skate for a while, like skate for a day, and then you stay somewhere overnight, and then you skate along, like, you know,
One of those
like a
endurance
lake
events.
system.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would just be so beautiful.
There's actually one, I think it's like in Norway or something like that, where they actually have this like yearly contest where they do this big long lake skate or something like that. And they actually had to move it because like the lake quit freezing enough. And now it was like in this place where they're doing like laps and laps and laps.
In Holland, you know,
Maybe I think that's where I heard about it.
yeah, the canals used to freeze, and that was a pastime, and that, unfortunately, they don't do it so well regularly anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, I think now that you say that, that seems like that's where they had that contest, or that's where they tried to have it at any rate. And maybe they relocated to Norway to be able to have it. But it's funny that you say that, because you do ice skating, but I actually do inline skating. And thing I did last year was a thing called A to A, and it's 88 miles of inline skating from Athens to Atlanta. So it's kind of in that same vein.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Where do you do that? On the road, or where do you do that?
So it's just on the street. Yeah, it's inline skates, like, you know, rollerblades.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be cold or anything like that. It does happen in December, but yeah, it's not. There's no ice or anything like. Matter of fact, you pray for it not to rain because it makes it slip.
Yeah, I know that would make it slippery.
But yeah, it's the same kind of concept. One of those endurance type events, and on blades. So you know.
Yeah, that would be great though.
It's good. It's a lot of fun. I really enjoy it. So I was you kind of answered my next question. I was going to ask what's something odd, weird, or different about you. And I think being a former figure skater would certainly fit that realm for sure.
I found, so kind of in my career, would have been over 10 years ago, I kind of sort of was at a kind of crossroads, and I wrote in there, and I was on holidays, and I wrote kind of things, my dream job, or what my dream would be. And I wrote innovation coach, and I found it like recently, you know, after not seeing it for 10 years. I thought, oh my goodness, that's what I'm doing. I am doing my dream.
Exactly what you're doing.
Yeah,
right?
But I think if you actually take the step to reflect and you write it down, there's real intentionality in it. Putting it on paper.
There's something about it, right?
There's something about it. There's power in our words. There's power in our writing. You're declaring it. So journaling is so powerful.
My buddy Pablo Gonzalez has a quote he kind of modified from The Alchemist, or The Alchemist, or whatever it's called, that book. And it's like it's something to the effect of, the universe conspires to give us what we ask for. It's like, if you put it out there, the universe will do what it needs to do to try to give you what it is that you're asking for, but you got to be looking for it though.
Yeah. And if you're a Christian person, the book of James says that our words have power. You know, we're creative beings. We're made in God's image. Our words have power. We are creative. We are made in God's image. So use that power.
My favorite scripture is, ask and ye shall receive.
Oh my goodness.
You know, it's like, it's so true. It's like, just ask. Just got to put it out there.
So powerful. We just don't realize how powerful we are.
Just want a couple of things to wrap it up. If you had a billboard for all the world to see, what would you put on it?
Look, I think have faith. Anything's possible. Just believe. Go for it.
And my last question is a kind of fun one. What's your favorite item under $100 that you use on an everyday basis that you could not live without?
Tracksuit pants.
Sweatpants?
Yeah. Do you call them that? Sweats?
Yeah, sure. Sweatpants or sweats. Yeah.
I never wore them before COVID.
You were always dressing up.
Yeah, totally.
Now you found your comfy pair of sweatpants. Huh?
Yeah, I wear them all the time.
Is there a particular brand? Is there one that you've kind of fallen in love with? Is there one that that we can find here in the States? Is it a Aussie specific?
There's nothing specific. These are Under Armour. I don't even know if I'm saying that properly.
Under Armour.
Under Armour. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and they're men's because they were all sold out at the sports store. Like everybody in COVID went to the shop to buy.
They bought out all the sweatpants.
Yeah, like me, all these people who never ever wore them went and bought them all. And so all the ladies' stock were all sold out. And then the lady behind the counter said, I can help you. And she took me over to the men's section and she gave me one. She got them off the rack. Nice. And she gave them to me and said, nice. These will fit you.
Well, that's funny because I have several pair of Under Armour sweatpants and I do love them. They're one of my favorite pair of sweats that I have. So that's great that they are Under Armour. That's so cool. Awesome. And they're guys too. So that's perfect. We probably have the same ones.
So there you go. I'm so unfamiliar with the whole thing that I don't even know how to pronounce the brand.
Well, I have to tell you, that's probably the most original answer for that question I've gotten to date. So that's great. That's definitely a great note.
Yeah, proof because I showed you them.
Yeah, right. That's awesome. Yeah, the folks listening won't be able to see, but yeah, we did get a leg up. If you heard that little muffle of clutter in there, that was Melinda lifting a leg up for us to all see what she's got. So anyway, we'll try to put the video clip of that up there, maybe on the highlight reel or something. Oh man. But Melinda, thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure to talk to you. Tell everybody where they can find you, where they can find your company, and then if you want to plug the charity that you're involved with or another charity that folks in the U.S. could maybe have an impact on or donate to or anything like that, now is your chance to do so.
Oh, great. Thank you so much. So incomeconnection.com. The charity that I'm plugging is called The Dish. You can find that probably just by Googling it. It feeds people who are disadvantaged homeless people in the suburb of Sydney. What else was there, Nate?
Anywhere that they want to find you on social media? Do you want to put that out there? Or are you
on
good?
Social media, yeah. So find me on LinkedIn. That's probably the best place to find me.
Enough.
Yeah, Melinda Livingston on LinkedIn.
Livingston. Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. And last question I'll ask you. So you've kind of seen what this podcast is about. Our tagline is where we try to profile ordinary people living extraordinary lives. And the fact that you've been able to craft this lifestyle by design, it's like you're at a definition of what we look for in our guests. So based on that, who do you think would be a good guest for this show?
Oh, look, I think for me, Michelle Obama would be a great guest for your show.
Maybe one that's a little bit more realistic, because I don't know that she's going to return my calls just yet. I mean, I can hope, but I'll give it a shot. But
how about Tristan Walker? Isn't he?
Oh, well, yeah, absolutely, yeah. I've actually kind of already wrote that one down. It's the one that I was going to go after. So that's brilliant. Yeah, that's an excellent answer. Cool, awesome. Thank you for that. Maybe you can grease the skids for me. We'll see. I don't know. No, but Melinda, thank you for your time. Thank you for your business. I think what you're doing is so unique in that you're providing a service that's got some real meat and potatoes to it. There's so many people out there that are just kind of putting lipstick on this stuff and just kind of trying to hustle and trying to make a quick buck, and to see somebody that's actually delivering some legitimate service and something that actually is going to help people realize their dream and help them create a different kind of lifestyle. Because again, like we talk about that, but you're actually taking people through that process. And man, if there was ever a time that your services were needed, it's now. So thank you. Appreciate you coming on.
Thank you so much, Nate. I've loved being on the podcast. It's been so much fun.
All right. Well, we'll do it again soon.
Yeah. Thank you.
So you're still here. Wow. Thanks for sticking around. So, what'd you think? What did I miss? What would you like to know more about? Who would you like to hear on the show? If you stuck around this long, maybe you won't mind giving me some feedback. And don't forget to check out the website extraordinarypodcast.net for all the latest episodes. And if you enjoyed the show, please take the time to share with your friends, on social media, or with anyone you think who might enjoy it. And last but not least, if you're ready to start living an extraordinary life, check out 8keystogreat.com, where you can craft your free blueprint to renovate your career, home, or lifestyle. The program is free, but you have to do the work to unlock each key. And finally, if you'd like to speak with me directly, you can book a free 30-minute Zoom call directly through my Colonial link on the contacts page. And in the meantime, check out some of the other exciting interviews with ordinary people living extraordinary lives. Thanks for listening, thanks for sharing, and most of all, thanks for just being you. I'm Nate G, and we'll see you next week.